Indi.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Colleagues, while this has a very long title, we refer to it as the Payday Lending Bill. And it's an effort by us on the crossbench to bring to the attention of the government that we want things done about the many, many people who are being exploited by what we call payday lenders. So this bill replicates word for word the government's draft legislation, which was released on the 23rd of October 2017, a year ago, and the government has done nothing. So I'm bringing it to Parliament today to say we need to act on this very important issue. But it also follows work from the opposition side of Parliament, the former member for Perth. He brought it to the Parliament and wanted to debate it as well. We've also had a debate in notice of motion, so we know how important this legislation is. But what we need is the government to bring it on and to act on their own legislation. So a few words about what's proposed by this bill. So this bill would impose a cap on the total payments that can be made under a consumer lease. So currently there's no cap on the total amount of payments that can be made. So it requires small amount credit contracts that are made by payday lenders to have equal repayments and equal payment intervals. It removes the ability of small amount credit contracts to providers, those people who do payday lending, to charge monthly fees in respect of the residual term of the loan when a consumer fully repays the loan early. So if you've paid it all off, that should be the end of it. It prevents leaseors and credit assistance providers from undertaking door-to-door selling of leases at residential homes. Door-to-door selling of leases, like how bad is that practice? It introduces broad anti-avoidance protections to prevent small account credit contract loans and consumer lease providers from circumnavigating the rules and protections already in the Credit Act and the Code. And it strengthens penalties to increase incentives for small amount credit contract providers and leaseors to comply with the law. This bill would also facilitate the making of regulations establishing a protected earnings account for all consumers of small account credit contracts and also for consumer leases. And there is a number of other aspects of the legislation that I just won't bore you with today. I want to say there are hundreds and thousands of vulnerable people are trapped in a debt cycle as a result of being caught by the endless cycle of payday loans or rent-to-buy schemes. And these small amount credit contracts have significant impact across the whole country. In 2015-16, there were almost 620,000 new payday loans, with almost $500 million advanced. And 2 in 5 of these people who entered into a small account credit contract loan during this period were unemployed. And 1 in 4 small account credit contract loans were given to people receiving more than 50% of their income from Centrelink. And 1 in 6 loans was entered into with a customer using an existing loan. So there's a whole lot of reasons why this needs to be fixed up. So as we do, we wrote to the Prime Minister saying, Prime Minister, we need you to act on it. And we've written to the Honourable Stuart Roberts MP, the Assistant Treasurer. And I had a meeting with him and had a letter back from him, which I acknowledge and say thank you. But he said, Cathy, we're going to wait on this. We're going to wait to the outcome of the Royal Commission. And while I understand the Royal Commission into banks is happening, I think this particular bit of legislation is important enough to bring on. We don't need the Royal Commission findings are heard until we actually get a result from it. So the time is now, the urgency is now, and I call on the government to act. So with those comments, I'll now pass over to the member for Mayo, who has seconded this legislation, and invite her to make a few closing comments.
Just before you do, the member for Indi, if she'd like her bill to go forward, must move that the bill be now read a second time.
I move that this bill be now read a second time.